Now, according to plan, recording in progress. Now, you're all very welcome. I'm Joseph O'Neill. I'm chairing this meeting for Interfaith for Palestine. And our guest speaker, we're delighted to have Mori Sela, who is a Jewish Israeli from the group that is promoting dialogue between Israelis and Palestinians in the Holy Land. Over to you, Mori.
Hi, glad to be here. Together with Warda Sada, we run a group called Israelis and Palestinians for Peace, which has 4.9 thousand people. I would say about 40% Palestinians, 60% Israelis or Jewish. People who are interested in this issue. Actually, we have some that are not directly related, but just interested in this topic, and they come to participate in this group. And what I think is unique about our group, I would say two things. One is the fact that it's very, very active. It's more active than any other peace group related to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict by far. I mean, we have few hundreds posts per month and many thousands of comments on these posts. So very, very active group with 3,000 active members according to Facebook. The other thing that I think is even more interesting is that we have weekly Zoom meetings. And the reason I'm emphasizing that is because I think the more meaningful discussion that we have, and also very interesting guests that we have, happens in these Zoom meetings. And like we do here, we typically record those Zooms. When we have a guest, we record them. Actually, when we have open discussion, we typically don't record them for the safety and privacy of the people in the meeting. And then again, the recording appears in the Facebook group so others can watch later. So that's about our group. And I want to go back and explain where I come from. I'm an Israeli, a Jewish Israeli. I was born here and was raised, I would say, according to the Israeli narrative that is being taught in every occasion, whether it's in school, whether it's in the holidays, the youth movements, and everywhere that you go. And then when I joined the military, some of it comes from there. And that narrative is that Israel is kind of a miracle for the Jewish people that allow them finally to come to a place that belongs to them, where they feel belong and they feel appreciated after being scattered in exile for thousands of years, and after massacres and persecutions. Now finally Jewish people, Jews can live in peace in Israel. And I was also raised by the core principles of the Israel Declaration of Independence, which says that Israel would be a homeland for the Jewish people, but all its inhabitants, which are non-Jews, will have freedom and will live with equal rights, and that Israel will seek peace with its neighbors, with its Arab neighbors. And again, this type of narrative I grew up on, and I realized it's not happening exactly like this, but I didn't realize how very different the situation is from this declaration. I joined the military. I was actually a pilot. I was flying attack helicopters. And I was raised again in the military under the concept that the Israeli army, the Israeli Defense Force, is one of the most moral armies in the world. I know that me personally and my commanders always try to avoid civilian casualties and to avoid any unmoral acts. So that's how I grew up. But then again, over the years, I was in high tech. After finishing with my military, I was serving in high-tech companies in different technology functions and business development functions. I didn't spend much time and energy on the whole Israeli-Palestinian topic, except for some, discussion. I was always pro-peace, pro-two-state solution. I was very happy, glad when Oslo Accord was signed in '93, and I thought, Rabin was going to be a great leader, and I was very, very sad, like many of us in the peace camp, when Rabin was murdered in '94. But again, I didn't do much about it. Just a couple of years ago, some kind of, maybe it's the age issue or what, I don't know what, I came to a realization that this thing cannot continue without me doing something about it. And I started to be more active. I joined a group called Combatants for Peace, which is Israelis and Palestinians from Palestine, mostly from the West Bank, meeting together and doing joint activities, typically trying to help the Palestinians in the West Bank, collecting olives in the olive harvest, and doing some other projects together, and also meeting with them and talking with them. I thought it was a really, really important activity. I also joined the Standing Together, which is another great organization that is more focused on Israelis, Jews and Arabs within Israel, with Israeli citizens.
What was the name you mentioned?
Standing Together.
Can you type it up for us?
Standing Together.
Ending.
Standing together.
Tending.
Standing.
Oh, standing together. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Very, very fine organization with a lot of followers in Israel and many circles, local circles. So I joined a local circle in my area where I live in the north of Israel, and here we met every month, and sometimes more often. Israelis and the Arabs, Israeli Jews and Israeli Arabs. We met together and we had discussions and we had joint protests, etc. What I felt could be also beneficial is to have some kind of a grassroots movement that does something similar to that online, because meeting physically, while it's the best thing, it's very hard logistically, and when people are from different locations, and to cross from Israel to cross to the West Bank is sometimes dangerous, and for them to cross from the West Bank to Israel, they need a permit, and not always they get permits. And so I thought if we can have a group where we can talk weekly and we can have discussions online, yes, it's not going to be like face-to-face, but it's going to be a really helpful thing to do, and try to also promote peace in various ways to influence the top level, the leadership. So again, in April 21, we formed this group, and since then it grew from a few dozen to a few thousands now. And also I would say that in parallel, I joined another NGO called the Forum of Peace NGOs. And in there, I'm in the steering committee of this group. I was a part of organizing joint events for all the peace organizations. We had one last September, I mean a year ago, where we had 13 peace organizations together and quite a lot of followers joined together and having discussions about the situation and how to improve it. We also had, by the way, representatives of the Palestinian Authority there in that event. And we had a similar event later on in the south of Israel and in the center. So 3 events last year that I was part of the organizers. So that's about me. What I wrote in my post today is that, I realized that the narrative that I grew up on was false. Israel, while claiming to be peaceful, didn't really rush to do peace. And the peace that we have with Egypt could have happened before the 73 war, could have happened, the same type of peace could have happened before, but we needed a war where thousands of people die in order to go and agree to give up Sinai. And unfortunately for the Palestinians, right now, they don't have the power to really impact on Israel as much, so Israel will agree to give up the West Bank and to make peace with them and take a bit of a risk, because again, we know that a peace agreement is requiring some trust and some risk. Before we had the peace agreement with Sinai, many people who objected this agreement said, we are now giving the entire Sinai. We just sign a paper, and tomorrow Sadat may die, which happened much sooner than people expected. And then the Egyptian may move all their military into Sinai, and then we can face them on our border. It didn't happen. But people think that if we give up the West Bank, and we have make peace with the Palestinian, it can turn out to be something similar to Gaza. And then we may have rockets and missiles and tunnels, not only from Gaza, but also from Jenin, from Bethlehem, from Ramallah, which is very close to the center of Israel and to a lot of population, a big population. So that's why, that is one of the main reasons why a lot of people that are either pro-peace or used to be pro-peace, why they are concerned, because again, the security issue. But there are other issues. There are some people that I would say the religious Zionism movement in Israel is leading, that they don't really seek peace. They just they believe that God gave us this entire land, and we should control this entire land. And Arab can stay, but only if they behave peacefully, and if not, they will not stay here. So that's their approach, and of course, I'm very concerned with that approach, and I'm trying to do my best to oppose it. So I think that gives you a bit of an overview about me and what I believe in, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. Just to clarify, you mentioned the group, you mentioned the focus of peace NGOs. Is that I've written it there in the comments section, is that the Israeli Peace NGO Forum?
Yes.
Yeah, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure we got that thing right. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Unfortunately, we don't have yet a website in English. Working on it.
Right. Okay. Yes. Okay. So I'll throw the room open. Can I just suggest, yes, that people use the little button and put their hand up. So I'm going to ask, I think Burgess is mad keen to ask a question. Go on,
Okay. You started by saying you believed in the Declaration of Independence. That declaration is deceptive. The reason it was written the way it was, including non-Jews, is to get accepted as a member of the United Nations. If they didn't have that requirement, they wouldn't have done it. And to prove it, from 1948 till 1962, the Palestinians within Israel were under military rule, and they're still second-class citizens. So I would believe that declaration is like the American Declaration of Independence. It has all, justice and peace and love and happiness. It wasn't.
Yes, I agree with you. I agree with you. Again, it was written on and published on May 14th, 48. And very quickly after, Israel started to oppress, I would say, and deliberately transfer or encourage transfer of 700,000 Palestinians out of Israel. So, and after the war, despite the UN Resolution 194, Israel did not allow them to go back to their home, and basically was happy to take over and give these properties to its civilians. So I totally agree with you. I think that the situation is very difficult to tackle on the international level because Israel has a very, I would say, a big difference between what Israel says openly and declare internationally and what's happening on the ground and what happens underneath. And it's all, nothing is done, unintentionally. It's all with intention, but it's under the ground. So the Israeli apartheid in the West Bank, for example, would, it's unlike the apartheid in South Africa that was declared and was stated in rules and laws and stuff. The Israel apartheid is much more sophisticated. They don't declare it. You won't see anything written that Arabs should not do this or should not do that, just because they are Arabs. But it does happen, of course. And that's, again, one of the things that makes it more difficult to change and to battle on the international level. And also internally, many Israelis are not aware of what I'm saying now. They still live in this la-la land where Israel is the most moral country and peaceful country, and we are just here trying to survive against Arabs who wants to kill us. Yeah.
Thank you. That's very helpful. I mean, I'm learning loads today. It's very interesting. Over to Peter. Peter, your turn.
Thank you. To reinforce what you said about not trust, sorry, I've got 10 things rushing through my mind. I don't know which one to say first. I mean, you mentioned the fact that the Arabs, it's a risk having negotiating with the Palestinians, etc. It's much more risky for the Arabs because they've never been told the truth. I'm not sure if you've heard of this book by Rabbi Dr. Chaim Simons. It's called A Historic Survey of Proposals to Transfer the Arabs from Palestine, 1895 to 1948. In that book, he says, while the leading Zionists were proclaiming that they wanted to live side by side, in peace with the Arab population. All along, they were planning ethnic cleansing. He looked at the archives of their diaries, of the minutes of their meetings, and it's all there black and white, all their correspondence. It was black and white. In fact, they had a military option, which was the Dalit Plan. I don't know if you've heard of Ilan Pappé, who's written many, many books on the history of Palestine. He teaches in Exeter University. I've got his book, The Ethnic Cleansing of Palestine, and the second book called 10 Myths About Israel. And he shows that nearly all the narrative, which we receive in England and around the world, etc., is based on myth. For example, in the 6-Day War, we were told that the little Israel had been attacked by all the Arabs. When we learned that, in fact, the Israelis did start, they said it was an existential threat. Well, Miko Pilet, I don't know if you've heard of him. He's got a book called The General's Son. His father was a commander or a general, I think, in the 67 war and in the 48 war. His grandfather was a signatory to the Israeli independence. But he stated, his father said, they were quite aware that the Arabs were in no position to attack Israel for at least 10 years, will attack anywhere. And in his book, and Ilan Pappé's book also said that they were, although they accepted the United Nations petition plan, they said, well, it's okay for the time being. They never really accepted it. And there were many times they were thought about going to war with the Arabs to grab the rest of the West Bank. And they thought international opinion would be too strong against them. They needed an opportunity or an excuse. And that's why they actually did initiate the attacks on Palestine. So
yeah, I want to, if I just may comment, you know, I agree with what you said, but I want to always, in order for us to be truthful and for people to relate to what we say, I think it's important to illustrate the complexity of the situation and not show it as a bad guys, good guys situation. Okay, what you just said now portrayed Israel as evil only side and the one that started all the wars, and that if they didn't, they could live in peace. That's what I heard, at least. And I think that's not the case, okay? The case was more complicated. Indeed, they were attacked by Israel, or the Haganah and Etzel, etc. And there were also attacks by Falangot, by militia, Arab militia, and indeed the Syrian army, the Egyptian army, the Transjordanian army, the Lebanese army also came to fight Israel in 48. So it was indeed a complex situation, but Israel indeed was stronger. The Israeli military was stronger, not because they had a very structured military, but I think mostly because the Israeli population back then was mostly young men, relatively healthy people who came just recently from Europe and were able to fight the civilians that were out there. And so they had a qualitative advantage, not so much a quantitative advantage. And they were able to win this war and took advantage, I would say, of winning this war to indeed change the demographic and transfer a lot of people. And keep in mind, when we look at it today, it looks something that, unthinkable to transfer 700,000 people out of the country and not allow them back. But in these days, it was kind of common. At the same time, there was a similar transfer of Jews from Iraq, from Morocco, from Egypt, from many other Arab countries that had to leave when Israel was established. And I agree with you that not all of them were attacked physically, but they felt that they could be attacked and they had to leave. And also some of the Palestinians, many people say many of the Palestinians who left Israel also left voluntarily. But I totally agree with them. I mean, they didn't want to be in a situation where they are being attacked by soldiers. So they like the refugees of Ukraine today, they left the country, so they are not involved in this war and in hoping to come back to their home. So that I just want to, just put down here the complexity. I think it's important for us, for any of us, peacemakers, to be heard, to show the complexity, not to show a good and bad side only, but something more complex that was indeed the case.
Thank you. I'm going to stop, Peter. Can I just suggest that if people do ask questions, that they ask about one topic and not three in a row, because it makes it easier for the guest speaker to respond in a more coherent and direct fashion. Now, I just want to check with Donald and Henry and Nihida whether they want to ask any questions or make any comments before we get back to Peter and Burgess. And we have no questions at...
Peter, Henry had his hand up.
Oh, Henry had his hand up, did he?
Well,
Yeah.
Yes, I did have my hand
Okay,
up.
sorry, go ahead, Henry.
Again, welcome, Mori. Since you were born in Israel, that means you're younger than I am, because I was born before the state of Israel was created. So congratulations on being younger than me, for one thing.
Congratulations on being older than me. I haven't made it that far yet. You already made it.
Every time I hear somebody talk about the complexity of the situation here, my ears perk up, because I must object to that. I can't believe the situation could be more simple. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like European Jews came to Palestine, threw out 750,000 Palestinians because they knew they could not create a supermajority Jewish population in this land unless they used violence. And so they did that. My corollary question is, did Palestinians invade Poland and threw out 750,000 Jews so that they could create an Islamic state? The answer clearly is no. And so when I hear complexity, I say no. It's very simple to me. But my question to you, and
I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
because I responded by saying that I agree that was happened, but I also explained that the other side was not, sitting arms down, waiting for Israelis to attack them. They were also proactive in attacking Israelis. Don't you agree to that? Do you think I was wrong? I'm wrong about that?
I agree they were trying to repel the invaders. And what are European Jews doing in the Middle East? History says they never came from the Middle East. Burgess can tell us how the exodus from Egypt never happened. It's all biblical myth based on that. The Zionist Jews championed this falseness, this historical false narrative, and they came in and developed this zero-sum game whereby every village lost by Palestinians were gained by the Jews. And
so you think that there was never a Jewish people living in the state, the land of Israel in the biblical times? You think David was not there, and all his,
here's what I
that
know.
has a lot of archaeological, finding behind it, including the holy, the holy temple and all of that. Do you think that's all made up?
Here's what I think. I think that if the DNA of European Jews showed that they came from Palestine, we would hear about that every day in the New York Times. We do not. They don't have a DNA leg to stand on. They invaded Palestine and threw out the inhabitants and
there are countless Hebrew archaeological findings from 2,000, 3,000 years ago in Israel, in the land of Israel. Guys, honestly, this is not the type of debate I would like to have here. I'm not an historian.
I don't blame you.
But that I know for sure. And if you're claiming that Jews have no background in this land, I think you are wrong. But you know what? Even that, in my opinion, is irrelevant to the situation that we are in right now, and to how do we solve it? Because you know, the British that conquered Israel at the time and ruled that place agreed and encouraged Israeli Jews to come over. Jews came over and brought land with money. They didn't come with an army. It wasn't the Jewish army coming to the land of Israel and by force getting their properties. They actually came with money and bought land. And eventually, after the establishment of Israel, indeed, they used force. But again, that was a part of a war. In my opinion, they should have allowed all the Palestinians to come back to their homes after that war, and should have established a fair country, just as it was declared in the Declaration of Independence. But that didn't happen, and it still doesn't happen. And still, I think that should be the focus, not the history, Henry. I totally disagree with you about the far history.
Can I just, that's very interesting. We won't answer every issue here. We're raising issues, and we can probably follow them on at further meetings, because, you know, it's a big deal. If I hear you right, Mori, what I picked up there is you're talking about the right of return. Would that be something you're talking about? It's the right of return for the Palestinians who've been, is it 7 million or so Palestinians who have been
I think if you ask me about solutions now, we have a situation today in which indeed Israel has its independence. We have two major problems. Palestinians don't have independence in Israel, and in the West Bank and Gaza, they don't have independence, and East Jerusalem, and there is the refugee issue of people that are refugees. Now, and there are multiple solutions out there. One-state solution, two-state solution. I've heard multiple versions of those: federation, confederation. I even heard about few solutions that are talking about three-state solution, meaning Gaza would be a separate state, West Bank would be a separate state, Israel would be. So now, I personally, by the way, I think that the two-state solution is the most straightforward and easier to approach, to achieve. But any of those solutions, a one-state solution, a confederation, a federation of sort, etc., any of those solutions could solve the problem that I mentioned, the problem of independence, the problem of refugees. And I think really the focus in my mind, the focus is on the Israeli side, the focus is on having enough people understand that Palestinians are not going to leave the area, they're going to stay in the area. It's not human, and it's not even, it goes against the interest of Israel to keep them in this situation where they don't have full human rights like any Israeli have. And once we have enough people in Israel realizing that, then the leaders of Israel will sit with the leaders of the Palestinians and they will find a solution. I don't know, I'm not going to focus on which solution it is because there's no shortage of solutions. The shortage is will. There is no will on the Israeli side, I would say. Right now, also on the Palestinian side, if you ask most people, they lost hope in peace. But I think if leadership will bring up an opportunity for peace, then people will follow. It happened before in the Oslo Agreement, where people moved from being against peace to being pro-peace. And I think it will happen again, just like it happened in Northern Ireland and the UK, I think.
Thank you. Thank you. I just want to give Peter, I know you're keen to ask more questions. I just want to give people the opportunity to ask questions. And that's Donald, Nahida, and Eva, if you want to ask a question. Eva, did you want to ask a question?
Yes. Well, my question, Nahida had her hand up first. So if she would like to go before me, Nahida.
Well, I don't know where to begin. I mean, even the acknowledgement of the horror of the establishment of the Jewish state, you claim that the Jews bought the land. How ridiculous that claim is. Israel, the Jewish state, is established and maintained illegally and immorally by terror, wars of conquest and aggression, actually, not by buying land. 539 villages were destroyed. People were genocided and ethnically cleansed. The genocide is ongoing. And to claim that you bought the land, I mean...
No, Nahida, that's not what I said. It's not what I said. What I said that...
Let me finish, please. Let me finish, please.
Sorry,
Don't
okay.
interrupt, okay?
Sorry.
Decades of vacuous negotiations, brutal occupation. Israel has proved to us, Palestinians, and to the world that it is untrustworthy. Israel is not just an imaginary entity. Israel and Israelis, okay? Leaders and people. You have proved to us and to the world that you are not trustworthy, that you are not capable or unwilling, not you personally, but you as a people, as occupiers, you are unwilling and incapable of living in peace. You have no intention to repent as a people, as a government and its people, majority. To the contrary, actually, the crimes have been exponentially aggravated and intensified as the time passes. So, peace talks and roadmaps and these like banners that are really, really so hypocritical, it is painful to actually hear the word peace from you as Palestinian. What you do by offering these vacuous words to us is to create irreversible, giving your hawks, your army, you give them time to create irreversible facts on the ground, to expansion, their colonies on our stolen land again, and intensifying the genocidal attacks on our people. So I am overwhelmed, actually, to have to listen to what you've come to say. I'm sorry. I feel very strongly about the issue because I have been in exile for most of my life. So you have to listen, at least, to what I have to say. The only way that your people, when I say you, I mean your people and your government, the only way that you may obtain, the legitimacy, because you are not legitimate. Your government, your entity is not legitimate because it has been established on stolen land, our land. Our people have been ethnically cleansed, so you can establish your Jewish state. So the only way you actually will obtain legitimacy is by our consent. And groups like yours, this is exactly what you are trying to do, to finalize the Zionist project and to make peace while keeping the loot. That's what you are doing. Now, on a personal level, I have been studying Jewish ideology for over a decade, actually. And what I found is very disturbing and alarming. I discovered genocidal ideological supremacy in Jewish ideology that will not allow a person who claims to be a chosen Jew to be equal to a non-Jew, not morally, not religious law or secular law. This is where you stand, your government stands. So the tribal genocidal supremacy that I have come to confront and hatred of all others, not only Palestinians, are filling Torah, Mishnah Torah, Talmud, and Tanya, and so on, these books. The problem is these books, these ideology are not just put on shelves, neglected. No, they are practiced by settlers, and you are fully aware what's happening by religious settlers in Palestine and the crimes they commit daily.
Yes.
So on another personal level, my land, my village, okay? 90% of my village land has been confiscated, and another Jewish colony only have been established on the farming land of my village. Okay, my village, my people cannot even cross over to their farming land because Jews are preventing them. Okay, so to come here and to claim that it's only a political will that is needed, or that an American president need to intervene, it's all, really a mirage, to say the least. What groups here like yours are doing is actually advocating the permanent existence of Jewish occupiers on the stolen land of Palestine.
No.
Okay, and which means the eternal disposition of my people. That's what you are advocating for.
Nihida, do you want to say more? Or
yes, I want to say more, actually.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry, my words are strong, but the crimes that have been committed against us are far, far, far worse than my words, okay?
I agree.
Even if Israel suddenly, changes miraculously and becomes really kind and really, giving Palestinians Israeli citizens, which I despise, and give equal rights to Palestinians, the stolen land will still be in their hands. The apparatus of power will be in their hands. The military dominance will be in their hands. Everything will be in their control because of their supremacist ideology. And you cannot deny that, because Palestinians now know. We in exile know, and Palestinians inside Palestine know. And that's why you find them going bare hand and bare chest facing tanks. You know why they do that. We don't want you there. I personally don't want your people there. My people don't want you there. We have had enough. 100 years. You have been given chances after chances after chances to repent and behave better, behave like human beings, and you didn't. You continue aggravating wars, making wars, attacking people, and talking peace. Talking peace and doing war. That is not good. That is not good. So even if Israel accept us now as equals, what will happen to our status according to Talmudic law? We will be upgraded from occupied to slaves. And I say no, thank you. No, thank you. That's what I have to say.
Thank you, Nihida. That's strong words, they're strongly felt, and thank you for sharing them so passionately.
Yeah, I would love to comment. First, I want to say, Nahida, that I really appreciate the fact that you're here and sharing your feelings, which I know is representing many, many, many Palestinians.
The vast majority, actually. The vast majority. Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
I agree. I also agree and sympathize a lot with the suffering of the Palestinian people and their rightful wish to be independent and to seek justice. Okay, and I know justice has not been done. What I want to say to you is, while you think that I'm a part of the problem, I wake up every morning and go to sleep every night thinking, what can I do to improve the situation so that Palestinians will actually get their rights and get their freedom. I cannot roll back the history. If I could, maybe Israel should not have been established. But since then, Israel now is a state with about 10 million people, about 7 million Jews, with a very strong army. To think that it will disappear and you can come back to your village is not realistic, and it's not helpful to your cause, in my opinion. What I'm doing, I think, is trying to use everything in my power and the people that I know to actually find a way that Palestinians can be equal, whether it's in a Palestine state sitting next to Israel, or a one-state solution in which Israelis and Palestinians are both equal. They have their fair share in the government, they have citizenship. It's not a Jewish state anymore. It may be a safe haven for Jews, but it's also a safe haven for Palestinians. So that's the type of solution I'm seeking. And I'm focused on the future, not on the past. I'm focusing on what I can do today to promote peace in the future. That is my focus. I think that people who are just looking at the past, they cannot change the past. The past is already done. What we can do
already done.
Try to change the future.
You came back in history 3,000 years, and you don't want me to go 70 years?
No, I don't.
3,000 years you justified going back, and you don't want us to come back in 70 years?
No, I don't say that. I said that I understand the suffering of the Palestinian. I know that they are indigenous to the land. I know that they have all rights to go back to their homes and places. But I live within a certain framework that we need to find a solution. If we, just a finishing note, a lot of injustices done in South Africa, and they found a way to fix and not send all the whites back to where they came from. Also in the US, a lot of terrible things happened with the slavery of Black people and the civil rights movement. And I'm not saying it's a perfect situation, but at least they were able to make them equal citizens. So that, again, that's my motto, I would say. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. No, just perhaps 10 more minutes. I just want to give the opportunity to Donald and Eva to ask a question and make a brief comment if you wish. Eva?
Yes. You said the worst you can see with the Zionists is that they want to have the Jewish state, but they say the Palestinians can live there as well. That indeed contradicts what the settlers are doing. They want the state for themselves. They want all Palestinians, all Arab out. They want greater Israel, and that is not in the past or in the Bible, which it is, but it is practically implemented every day. Every day, at least 10 Palestinian young people are murdered by the Israeli occupying force. That is the thing that called themselves the most moral army in the world. And these settlers work on ideology. And Naida has outlined it, and we think in this group that the ideology for this is central. And without challenging that supremacist, that Gentiles are cockroaches, like so many rabbis say, we cannot not create any atmosphere
By the way, I want to stop you here because I want to stop you here because I never heard any Jewish say that all Gentiles are cockroaches. If you do have sources for that, please send it to me. But I haven't seen that at all. And this is
You
not.
haven't seen that, then maybe we sent you some
Again, I agree with the
references to
concept,
that.
but I think
Good.
it's counterproductive to
No, but
exaggerate.
just let me ask the question.
Hello, I'm chairing
No,
the
just
meeting.
let me just finish the question, and that is, what are you doing about the ideology of supremacy, of Jewish supremacy, which
I'm
is the
against it.
core of all the aggression?
I'm totally against it. I'm against the settlements. You have to realize the complexity in Israel, okay? There is a reason why we have 5 elections now in 2 years. There is a great divide within Israel. There are people with different agendas. The settlers represent, I would say, maybe 20% of the population. The settlers and their supporters, some of them are not settlers, but they support them, maybe 20%. But the core, in order for us to reach a solution, the center of Israel should be convinced that peace is needed and is possible. And that's my focus. The center, the settlers, with that superior approach that you are mentioning, I despise them, I am against them, and I'm trying to battle them any way possible internally in Israel. I think the majority of people are not like that. They don't really want to control other people, but they are concerned that if we have peace, it will not be safe for them. And these are the people that I'm trying to influence, because I think with these people, we're able to get a majority that will actually seek peace in Israel, Palestine.
Thank you. Donald, do you have any questions?
Yes. Well, on the same theme that I was mentioning before, Israeli government and its supporters are the masters of propaganda. They control, almost certainly, I think it's and true to say, they control the international press and television, and hence people throughout the world don't hear the true situation of what is happening in Palestine. Now, I'm pretty sure from what I read that the Israeli population are in the same situation. It's a military state. Everyone has to go into the army, which is, of course, a thing I would oppose anyway. But you're educated with the view that you're going to deter the Palestinians. And of course, to aid that, you're given information which basically is not necessarily true. They have to build up some sort of hatred in the Israeli population to allow them to do and accept to do the things that are occurring in Palestine. Now, unfortunately, the US, America, comes into this in a big way. I mean, Israel is virtually financed by America, and it's an American base, and they want to control it, and they're very happy with the way the propaganda is being used, both in Israel and throughout the world. But somehow or other, this has to be broken down so that everyone has the facility of hearing what the true situation is in Palestine, because I don't think the world population would accept it if they really knew what it was. Anyway, I'll leave it there.
Thank you, Donald.
Thank you. I want to just say regarding the US government, I think they are not, again, just evil and that's all. I think, again, it's a complex situation. I think the most US governments, and including today, they really want to have a Palestinian state. They want to have a solution. And I see you all nodding, but again, I think it is actually for their interest as well. And they did try multiple times in the past, sending convoys of people and trying to facilitate and moderate a peace between Israel and Palestine. What they failed to do is to use their power to actually force Israel for concessions. And this is the part that I think is missing. I think they are interested, but they don't take the necessary measures to do that. And some of the reason, maybe the main reason, is AIPAC. AIPAC is the Jewish organization in the US that really sponsor congressmen and women that are pro-Israel. And so it is within their interest to be pro-Israel, no matter what Israel does, and not to really force Israel to do the right thing. And that's, I think, my observation. If I was a Palestinian or a Palestinian supporter, I would try to establish a similar organization, far richer, with our money, that with maybe Saudi money, maybe Kuwaiti money, that could actually sponsor those who are pro-peace and not pro-Israel. And that's my opinion at least.
That's very good. This is great. I mean, I think we've got about 5 minutes left. So I'm going to ask Henry. He's had his hand up for a long time. Henry, do you want to ask a question or any comment? Any final comments, Henry?
Well, it's my boilerplate question. I'll put to Mori. First, I want to thank him for attending and joining us for this week. Benjamin Netanyahu often demanded that Palestinians accept Israel's right to exist as a Jewish state. So my question to you, and in fact, it reminds me that I was a member of your group on Facebook, Israelis and Palestinians for Peace. And I asked this question, and I noted that after almost 200 responses, not one Palestinian answered this question in the affirmative. And then I was thrown out of the group. But the question is to you: does Israel have a right to exist as a Jewish state? And if so, by what right?
I think it's okay. I think, again, we cannot roll back the history. Okay, if these questions you are muted now. I cannot hear you. But if this question was asked when Israel was established back, was given the right to be established in 1947 by the United Nations, back then there was this discussion, and the United Nations decided, yes, they have a right to exist, and they have a right to have a state. Now, is that a fair decision? Maybe not, but that was already happened for, again, 75 years ago. And now, as I mentioned, there is a state, there are millions of people. What do you suggest to do? To get rid of them, to have them go back to where they came from? Some of them are fourth generation already in Israel, to send them back to where they came from. Millions of people.
We are 4 generations in exile, 5 generations in exile.
Yes, I know. And again, I'm for Palestinians' right to come back to Palestine.
And the land,
How would this go?
how the land, our land is in your hands, in your government and the settlers' hands. Either Palestine 48 or Palestine 67, the same. Our land is not with us. Our land is occupied by
So
foreigners.
what do you suggest? What do you suggest that will happen?
I want my land back.
And what?
I want my
what's gonna
land
Thank you,
happen
Nida.
with-
I'm just
what's
going
gonna
to,
happen
sorry,
with the
I'm
Jews?
just going to, we could continue discussion for 24 hours. So I think it's been a fantastic introduction. And I think Nida, I think we'll end on that note of Nida's, that the Palestinians want their land back. And I want to thank our speaker. Just to wrap up, I know we could ask loads more questions. And I know there's a lot you said that I would agree with, and there's a lot that I would disagree with. But you know, need to be polite, because I need to be polite because I'm the chair and because it's your first time here. Now, one of the questions you did ask, when you put through your very interesting short précis of your thoughts, you finished off by saying, what can we do to improve the situation? So I think we just like to finish with people's suggestions as what we can do to move things along. I'm going to make two suggestions. I'm a Catholic, so I pray every day. I'm not a brilliant Catholic, but I do think that's very important. So I pray each day for the Palestinians and for the persecutors. I think it's very important. With respect to your group and our group, I think we've made a real breakthrough today. We've met a Palestinian and we've met a Jewish member of the group who've come and talked to us. And I'm sure there's been a lot of anxiety and perhaps lack of trust maybe, but I think we're building upon that and building upon a relationship. And we won't agree on everything. Clearly, we will not agree on an awful lot of stuff. So the other, after the prayer, our mindfulness, whatever you want to do about Palestine and the persecutors, is you've mentioned a few groups. We're always on the lookout for people to come and talk to us. We won't, as you know today, we treat them politely, but we won't always agree with everything they say. And that's because we're having a realistic discussion, a truthful discussion. And I would invite you to pass our name on to other people that you've met, perhaps in the group, even the groups you've mentioned, the two groups today, and say, we're very keen, because we've reached out a lot of the time to Jewish people, and they have refused to engage whatsoever. So for instance, the rabbi in Belfast has refused to talk to me this week, and a group that claims to be supporting Palestine has refused to talk to our group again this week. So we're reaching out, but the major issue we're having is people just engaging to have these sort of conversations. And that would be lovely if you could encourage other people to come and talk, even from your group or from other groups. I mean, for instance, Breaking the Silence and the other ones you've mentioned, which are Standing Together, Forum for Peace, and Competence for Peace. Again, we need to be honest here. We're not going to say you're absolutely marvelous to everything they say. We're going to say, yes, you've got some good points, but yes, there is some very serious, difficult questions we have to ask you. This is our perspective from Europe about the issue, and from Palestine as well, of course. Right. Any other thoughts people have about moving things forward? Peter.
Oh, not so much.
I just want to say, Joseph, to what you just said, I'll be happy to do that. If you send me the recording, a link to the recording, that will also help in promoting your group, and I can put it in our Facebook group, which has thousands of people in. So yeah,
thank you very much. Right, a final few thoughts about moving things forward from people. And this is specifically, Peter, relating to how we can move things forward.
I think we've got to push the idea that international law and human rights law apply to all peoples. There's no people, no country that has an can be exclusively racist, is what it is. They've got to acknowledge, when you say Israel's got a right to exist as a Jewish state, there are 65 laws within Israel itself, not on the West Bank, which discriminate against non-Jews. And in the Jewish national law, it puts Jews above others. There has to be an acknowledgement throughout the world that all men are equal. We need the same standards to apply throughout all countries. And if Israel obeyed international law, we'd get a long way towards peace.
Thank you very much.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah, okay, Mori, I'm just going to ask the other members their thoughts about moving things forward.
Yes, okay,
Everybody
Can I just say one thing?
Burgess?
There is no such thing for a state to exist. There's no right for any state to exist. It's not written in stone. States come and go. Yugoslavia was a state, is no longer there. Soviet Union was a great big state, no longer there. I don't accept the division of Sykes-Picot into Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, Iraq as valid. All these states are artificial. In the League of Nations, there were only a dozen states. The UN had only 53 members. Now it's nearly 200 members. A state, a nation state, is an old-fashioned, obsolete idea.
Okay.
So to actually say the Jewish state has right to exist, no. Syria hasn't got the right to exist. Lebanon, not in the borders and the state that were given by not the people themselves, but the British Empire, the
Right.
French Empire.
So
we have to accept we have to accept that no state has the right to exist because these states are all artificial.
Okay, that's your suggestion. Your movement towards solution. Okay. Any other final thoughts from Eva, Donald, Henry, Nahida about moving things forward?
Maury, could you get me reinstated in the Facebook group?
Yes, send me. I will look up your name and try to bring you back. Yeah.
Good. I think excellent. Can I say that's the sort of thing that we're talking about a lot of big things here, but Henry's just talked about a very practical issue and about reconciliation. I mean, that's a real example of reconciliation. So I think that would be a real sign, positive sign of moving forward. Yeah. Okay. Any last thoughts from Donald, Eva, or Nahida of trying to move things forward?
I just want my land back.
Okay, that's yours. Yes, I think that's a
I
very
want
succinct
the
statement.
war criminals to be prosecuted also.
Yes. Okay. International Criminal Court. I think that has come up before, and return of property. Yeah. Okay. Donald and Eva, that only leaves you.
Well, from my particular view, any military action by either side isn't going to be effective. It's going to cause more problems than otherwise. So the hope, whatever happens, it isn't a military solution that is going to be used for trying to settle this position.
How effective is your group in stopping Israel's wars?
Sorry, that's a question.
We are trying. We are doing our best.
Yeah.
We are not successful yet, but at least I think we are doing our best.
Okay, thank you. Now, Eva, do you have any last thoughts about moving things forward, or you're happy with all the comments so far?
So
Eva?
far, we need to.
Yeah.
Mori, if you haven't seen the ideology of some rabbis, then I would think a way forward is to explore that and to see where the ideology of supremacy is informing that Israeli mindset, I would think. And that is informing again a military mindset. And that mindset is practiced every day by the Israeli soldiers who with impunity every day shoot people. And us to say, well, we need to sit together and make peace is all nice and well. But if these soldiers aren't stopped, if these settlers aren't stopped, yes, you're trying to do that. But just by appealing to their conscience, I have lost faith that that is going to work. That people need to stand together, and the people who have interfered before, the Syrian army, the Jordanese army, now the Saudis are breaking up in their opposition or in their support for Israel. That is the wider picture that hopefully comes to pass when people with a human mindset for justice stand against injustice together.
Thank you, Eva. Thank you. I mean, I pick up the first point you made there because you made a number of points. You're talking about the Jewish religious ideology. The best book I've read in this topic, and I don't know whether you've read it, Mori Sela, is by Holocaust survivor Israel Shahak, who was a chemistry professor in Israel in the Israeli regime, and his book is called Jewish History. Very short book, excellent reflection and study upon the influence of the Jewish religious ideology on the secular ideology of the current state. Have you heard of the book?
I haven't. I took a note and I will try to get it and read it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you know, there's a lot of books about the whole topic. It's short. That's its main one of its.
Again, I'm aware that indeed the Jewish religion has supremacy within it. They believe that God gave us the Bible and make us okay. I'm against it. I'm totally unreligious. I think Israel should separate state and religion, and that's what I want to say. I actually ask you if you could answer my question from the beginning of the session, which is how come the UK supports Israel despite the fact that there are more Muslim people and
Can I just, I think we're near the end of our time, and there's something, what usually happens, sorry, Peter, at the end of our session is somebody pops up a big question like that. Now, you did ask at the start, and I think that's probably for the next session, because we could inform you a lot about that, but I think we'd need a good 45-minute session to talk that one through, because there's been a lot happened in the last 5 to 10 years in British politics, in British life, and that will, that has been quite shocking, really. So I think we can discuss that. Peter, I'm going to stop you, please, because I think we need to come to the end.
Just want to answer the question in one sentence, a couple of sentences.
One sentence, very good.
Yeah, there are indeed lobby groups, Israeli lobby groups, pro-Israeli lobby groups in Britain who are incredibly powerful. The Board of Deputies of Jews claim they represent 70% of Jewish people, and they've got the ear of the Prime Minister, the government, the opposition, and everyone else. Each political party has got a Friends of Israel. It's a semicolon. And thirdly, I nearly forgot what I was going to say now.
Powerful group.
There is a Jewish Voice for Labour, which is very strongly affiliated to the Labour Party. They've actually helped get rid of, there's another Jewish group,
JLM, Jewish Labour Movement. This is why we need to hold another meeting about this, Peter. And I think it would be unfair to all parties to dive into this issue just now.
But just saying that they have been sacked.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you very much. That's lovely. Yes, no, it's an important issue, but we can't cover everything in one meeting.
With respect, I think you should give me I want to answer that particular question.
How long are you going to take?
Well, you keep telling me you talk and talk and talk and talk and talk about nothing, saying this is what we should be talking about, but I'm talking about specific issues.
Yes,
the point is Jewish Voices for Peace is a Labour group that have been actually expelled from the Labour Party. There is a movement called Against the Witch Hunt. Anyone who even passes on their material on Facebook are thrown out. So the Jewish pro-Israeli lobby is incredibly powerful in Britain and in Europe. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. And thank you for that short resuming. So we're going to finish the meeting and say thank you very, very much. We do hope that more members of your group can come to talk to us and that you can suggest other people to speak to us. I'm now going to finish the recording. I'm going to press stop recording. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.